to the network, they were loving it. I mean, they'd already decided to buy the show at that point. But when they were just enthralled, and when Zach is going through the and the fight starts, and we see Austin kind of come right towards Bulk and do this just mean roundhouse that just would have taken his head off in real life. And that's when the network kind of went, "Oh God, we got to fix this." So that's why it got a little more benign. I was like, "No, don't take my fun."
All right, let's give the guy the leather jacket. He's been had his head up for 3 years. Yo! Wait for the mic.
Wait for it.
I love the show since the beginning. I got out of the hospital after about anorexia. And I watched from day one. I met actually Narvi once right before I shipped out to boot camp for the Navy back in '98.
Well, those are some memories you wanted. You locked away on the ship for 6 hours.
Actually, I had to get out because of budget cuts. I was a criminologist technician. They see president.
Where did we meet?
Simi Valley, right at that Ralph's parking lot. You know?
It was one of those meetings.
Oh yeah! Yeah, I'll be right there. I got
Well, I want to say that, have any of you guys ever looked at like Yahoo groups where like a lot of people have done role-playing games based off of the show and made their own history with it?
No.
Nobody knew there was role-playing games in Power Rangers.
I'm kind of scared of that. Except for you guys. Yeah, I don't think we're done that kind of stuff. Well, we can tell you about some private drinking games, but they would get in trouble. I can't tell you that there were some Power Ranger drinking games, but there weren't any cameras around for those.
Let's get somebody over on this side. We've been ignored. How about you with the purple?
Did you guys pull any pranks on each other?
Oh.
Yeah, that was pretty much a living.
Here's a great one for Paul and Steve. This wasn't an on-set prank. We were in Australia, and it was Christmas Eve, I think.
Oh, no.
And we were called to do our first radio interview. Now, he was still kind of the new guy at this point, okay? So he'd never done a radio interview, okay? It was me and Paul Schreier and Steve, and I think we probably hit the bar first. And then we went to Midnight Mass afterwards. What a full night that was. And they asked us, all kinds of questions. So is it fun to do the show? And Paulie and I, before Steve could open his lips to be like, "Oh yeah, it's great, we had a great time." So when they asked us the really hard question, which is, "Do you think the show's too violent for kids?" That's always been a tough one, And we knew that one like the Nuremberg check, We find that it is the responsibility of the parents to not let the children watch. But as soon as they ask us, "Is it too violent for kids?" we go, "Steve?"
Without being prepped, like as to what I should have said, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I said. Basically, they definitely put me on the spot on that one. I'm gonna have to get you back for that. Thanks for reminding
Remember, Jason, Frank, and we had a pretty good prank on David Yost. And we actually got in trouble by the producers and I think the director, the first AD, and the second AD, and the PAs, and I'm sure my mom was. I think my mom got a phone call too. But Jason, Frank, and I were hanging out, and for some reason we decided to pick on David Yost. He was sleeping. Mistake number one. Mistake number two, he didn't lock the door to his dressing room. And mistake number three, there was a permanent Sharpie. So, we, at first, a very discreet, ninja-like fashion, snuck in, and inches from his face, I won't tell you what we wrote, inches from his face, he wakes up. And at this point, it became like Chinese torture because then we just sat on him, held him down, and did it anyway. And took turns, like symbols. And he didn't talk to us for a while, I can tell you.
I do remember there were a ton of pranks pulled, and some of them we can't mention, but Jason Frank he instigated a lot of it. But I do remember that he never knew when to stop.
There's a certain line.
Or when to like let people in on that it was a joke. Like I remember in Australia, he just pissed people off. Like he would like take a little water in his hand and he'd walk by and he'd sneeze on them. And they'd go, oh, sorry. And it wasn't like, it was water, after it was like, sorry. And he would just keep doing it. People would be so pissed off. And I remember though, Jason ended up picking on Steve a lot. Because Steve was always asleep. Right before we started shooting.
Mistake number one, don't go to sleep. We know where to find you. Right there, the glasses with your hand up right there.
Okay. Comment and a question. A comment and a question. First, a comment. Jason, you are hilarious. You deserve your own sitcom alongside Steve Carell.
I love you.
And this is for Johnny and Steve. When you first got the roles as Red Ranger and Black Ranger, what was the whole process of that? How did it start? How did you get it? And what was the whole experience behind that?
Well, we were living in Dallas. I'm from Texas. I'm from San Antonio, but I was living in Dallas at the time. And a friend of mine ran a pizza shop, and he told me he heard about this audition that they were having for Power Rangers. And I already heard about the show, but I didn't know that like some of the people were, were moving on and they were going to get some new Rangers. So I just heard that they were holding some auditions, and I was like, yeah, all right, whatever, dude. They're not having any auditions like that. And then about a week later, I heard it from somebody else too. They're like, yeah, they're holding auditions here in Dallas, man. So I called the Fox TV station, and they said, oh yeah, you got to go up there at this time, show up there. And so then I showed up there, and it was like, how many people were there that day? It was like, must have been like 4,000 people there or something at that audition. And so we were all there hanging out, and then we basically did our routines. And then they called us back a little bit later that day to do another one, and then they filmed it. And they sent that stuff to the producers. And then that's when they flew us out to California to meet the producers. We auditioned for them, and that's how we got the part. I was at the Kung Fu school and I was training, and my instructor was reading the paper, and he called me over and he showed me the newspaper article, said that they were looking for new Power Rangers. And it didn't say if it were stunt guys, or at least I didn't know if it was for stunts or if it for actual Rangers. But he told me, hey, you should go to the audition and give it a shot. And so I went, I kind of put together some like flipping and kicking and stuff, nothing really great. But then I went, and then I saw like thousands of people just lined up. I even remember seeing Steve like doing like 50 kicks in the air. I was like, dang, that's a lot of kicks, man. I was like, dude, I hope I don't have to do that. And then I remember, and I was like in my sweats at that point, so I was like, okay, whatever, I can do my flips and everything. So we'd show off our moves or whatever, and then we came back later, and it was like a monologue we'd have to read. And then like, I had to come back again. Well, actually, when they brought us all in, because I had a friend with me who was like, oh, I'll go with you, because I can dance. And he's this white guy that can't really dance. Thinks he can, but I wasn't going to tell him, I just needed somebody there for support. And,
Even if you let him crash and burn in public, but
But they called you in, they lined you up, and they said, you come back, the rest of you go home. It's like they did first it was by looks, and then you come in and you did your martial arts stuff. And I remember after I did my martial arts stuff, it was like I got to come back with a monologue. And then he comes out all bummed out. He's like, man, I tried to do the windmill, it just didn't work out. And so anyways, so we went through the process, and then I remember I had to come back and do the monologue, but I went home and changed. In Texas, we wore tight jeans, and I thought I already did the martial arts stuff, I didn't have to do it again. So I went back, And then that was actually when I saw Steve doing his kicks, and I was like, dang, it's a lot. And I was like, oh man, me and my tight jeans, I don't know. I was like, hopefully the only one is me to read this line. And then I go in there, and that's not, they say, can we see the martial arts stuff again first? And I was like, oh crap. I swear to you, my kicks were no higher than this, like this off the ground. And I just, there was one lady, Kate, what was her name?
Katie Wall.
Yeah, whoever it was, but she was the chick in the room, and I was like, I'm just gonna look at her and smile whenever I screw up. And be like, hey.
No, please.
But then somehow it worked. Well, actually, I went, like, it was like a couple weeks later, I think, because I got going, I was like, well, I guess I'm going to go to college. And then I went and registered, and then I got called to go to California. And the funny thing is, if you guys know Dan Southworth, he and I, when I got there, I met him there, and we were auditioning for Black Ranger at that time. And, you know, we just went through the process, and then I got the part with, you know, him and Karen Ashley. But then it's funny because Dan